Now that we've talked about writing equations of lines in general, we've reviewed that from algebra, we're going to go on and talk about how else we can know slope. We've talked about that we can get slope because I tell you what the slope is, because you can calculate it between 2 points, because you can count it off of a graph. I can give you an equation in either y-intercept form or slope-intercept form or standard form, and you can get the slope from that. Another way that I can give you information about the slope is by talking about whether they are parallel or perpendicular lines. Parallel lines have the same slopes, they have the same rate of change, same being exact. 1 and -1 are not the same. Even though their values are equal, their signs are not. So they have to be exactly the same. Perpendicular lines are opposite reciprocals. So you make them, they have the opposite sign of what they had before, and then you take the reciprocal or you flip the fraction over. So remember, if we have y equals mx plus b, if that is our slope-intercept form, m is our slope. And so we can get the slope from an equation by just putting it in slope-intercept form. And so y equals 4x plus 7, our slope is 4. If we want the slope of a line that's parallel to that original line, then it will have the same slope. If we want it to have a slope that is perpendicular, it will be the opposite reciprocal. So 4 is positive, so our new slope will be negative. And then 4 can be made into a fraction by putting 4 over 1. So our reciprocal would be 1/4. So our opposite reciprocal or perpendicular slope would be -1/4. For the next one, we have a slope of -1/3. Now, I don't care. It doesn't matter where the negative is. It could be -1/3. It could be 1/3. It could be a negative in the middle like it is there. All three of those represent the same thing. Okay, so the slope of that original line is -1/3. The slope of the line that's parallel to that will be -1/3. And the slope that's perpendicular, we need the opposite reciprocal. So overall, that fraction is negative. So the perpendicular will be positive. And the reciprocal of 1/3 is 3. So our perpendicular line will have a slope of 3, or 3 over 1 if you were going to graph it. Now the next equation, 4x minus 10y equals 9, it is in standard form. In order to tell what the slope is, we need to convert it to y equals mx plus b, or at least do enough of the work to get to the slope. So if you subtract 4 from both sides and divide by -10, you get -4 over -10, which would reduce to 2/5. So the slope of that line is 2/5. The slope of the parallel line it would have the same slope, it would also be 2/5. And the slope of the perpendicular will be opposite, so it will be negative, reciprocal, so you will flip over the 2/5. So how can we tell if two lines are parallel, perpendicular, or neither? Well, we compare their slopes. So I've already gone through with these equations and I've converted them into slope-intercept form so that it's easy to compare the slopes. So you look at the slopes. The first equation has a slope of 3. The second equation has a slope of -1/3. And you compare them. Are they the same? Are they different? Are they opposite reciprocals? If they're different, are they opposite reciprocals, or are they just plain different? So 3 and -1/3 are opposite reciprocals. So these two pairs of lines are perpendicular. Okay, remember the symbol for that is that upside down capital T. In part B, we rearrange the equations so that we can see the slope. We have a slope of -4 and we have a slope of +4. They're not equal, so we know they're not parallel. They are opposite. One's positive, one's negative, but they're not reciprocals. The reciprocal of 4 would be 1/4. So these have no relationship. They are neither parallel or perpendicular. They just intersect. And then C, we rearrange the equations. We see that our slopes are 1/2 and 1/2. They are exactly the same, which means that these lines are parallel. Or with your symbols, remember it's like the double L in parallel. So how do you write the equation of a line that's parallel or perpendicular? Well, you do it just like we did the other day when we were writing equations of lines. We need a point and we need a slope. Now remember, you can use the point slope equation or you can use slope intercept. I'm usually going to use the point slope equation because it just lends itself to being a good hint. I have a point, I have a slope, I'm going to use the point slope equation. So we're going to do what we did the other day, but the way that we get the slope is going to be different. So write the slope intercept equation of a line that passes through this point, 8, -4, that is parallel to y is equal to 5/4 x plus 2. So we need our slope, and it is going to come from right here. It's parallel to this line. Well, this line has a slope of 5/4. Okay, so since this line has a slope of 5/4, my line is going to be parallel to that, so my slope is also going to be 5/4. So now we just go through the process like we did before. Write your skeleton, y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Start plugging in your numbers. So we have y minus y1. y1 was -4. Be careful not to confuse the negative with the minus. The slope was 5/4. And x minus 8. That was x1. So then from there, we want it in slope intercept form. Right now it's in point slope form. Go ahead and fix this. Always get rid of those double negatives. We're going to distribute the 5/4, so we know we have y is equal to 5/4 x. So 5/4 times 8. The easiest way to do this, especially if you'll write it so that numerators are on top, denominators are on bottom. 5 times 8 is 40, divided by 4 is 10, and it's negative, so that will be a -10. I need to combine that -10 on the right with the +4 on the left, so I'm going to subtract that 4 from both sides and get -14. So my final equation is y is equal to 5/4 x minus 14. So just like we did the other day, it's just we're getting our slope from a different place. So write the slope-intercept equation of a line that is perpendicular. As soon as you see that word, you know that that's going to be useful to you. Perpendicular to 2x plus 8y equals 9 and passes through the point 5, -14. Again, we need a point and a slope. I have a point, I need a slope. My slope is perpendicular, so it's the opposite reciprocal. I did some rearranging to get that 2x plus 8y equals 9 into slope-intercept form and found out that my slope is -1/4. So that's the slope of the original line. The slope of the perpendicular line, so I'll make a notation like this, the slope of the perpendicular line would be opposite, so it'll be positive, reciprocal, so you flip over the 1/4 and you get 4/1 or 4. So now we have our point and our slope that we need to be able to write the equation. So we just plug everything in. Y minus a -14 is equal to the slope times x minus 5. So we know that's going to give us 4x minus 20. I'm going to subtract 14 from both sides, and that gives me y is equal to 4x minus 34. So again, the only thing that's new today is finding out how to get the slope of the line. So number 4, write the slope-intercept equation of the line that passes through the point -12, -4, and is parallel to the line shown. So I have to get my slope from somewhere. In this case, I'm going to get it from the graph. So I'm going to pick 2 points that are on the graph. These 2 were already labeled. If you don't have points, then pick 2 that are nice and pretty that cross on the grid. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. So it rises 4 and it runs 3. So the slope of the equation or the slope of the graph that I have is 4/3. So since the slope of the line that I have is 4/3, I want my line to be parallel. So I'm going to use that same slope, and now I just go through the process again. Y minus a -4 is equal to 4/3 of x minus 12. Distribute your 4/3. So you get 4/3 x. So 4 times 12 is 48. Divided by 3 is 16. Now you've got that 4 on the left-hand side. Remember you had that y plus 4 over there. Subtract 4 from both sides, and you get y is equal to 4/3 x minus 20. So your line, it'll be way down here because you have 20, but it's going to cross and it'll look something like that. Okay. If you had a sheet of grid paper, you could graph it and get the line, get the equation of the line from there. Now, same problem, but I want it to be perpendicular. So if I want it to be perpendicular, then my perpendicular slope will be the opposite. It was positive, now it needs to be negative. Reciprocal, 3/4. So again, go back, put it in your point slope equation. Y minus y1 is equal to the slope times x minus x1. Distribute that 3/4, so we know we're going to have negative 3/4 x in our equation. Negative 3 times negative 12 is 36. Divided by 4 is plus 9. Then I've got to deal with that plus 4 over there, so I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides, and I'll get plus 5. So y is equal to negative 3/4 x plus 5. Number 5, write the equation of the lines that are parallel and perpendicular to x is equal to 4 and contain the point 2 and 9. So we want to be parallel to x is equal to 4. That means we need to have an understanding of what x is equal to 4 looks like. So x is equal to 4. It crosses through the x-axis at 4. So here is the original line. X is equal to 4. I want to be parallel to that. So my parallel line has to go in the same direction. So it's going to be x is equal to, well, right here you can see that x is equal to 2 because we want it to pass through 2, 9. So it's going to pass through over here somewhere. And then perpendicular to that, perpendicular to vertical is horizontal. Horizontal crosses through the y-axis. So that would be your y is equal to 9 equation. Okay. Then our last one, write the point slope equation of a line that passes through the point 413 and is perpendicular to y is equal to 1/4 x minus 3. So we got to get my slope from somewhere. I have my point. Your slope is 1/4. I want to be perpendicular to that. So the perpendicular slope is opposite, which would be negative 1/4. The reciprocal of that is 4. So now just go through the same steps we've been going through. Y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x1. Simplify it. I'll write this one out a little bit more than I have been. Y is minus 13 is equal to negative 4x plus 16. Add 13 to both sides, and you get y is equal to negative 4x plus 29. Okay, so what's important here that we added today is how another way to get the slope so that you can write the equation of the line. If it's parallel, then you use the same slope. If the lines are supposed to be perpendicular, then you will use opposite reciprocal slopes.